Sources confirm the al-Qaeda cell goes by the name Khorasan. Unlike ISIS, it's not fighting for territory. It's developing fresh plots to target U.S. aviation and trying to recruit Westerners who have flocked to the fight in Syria. The fear is U.S. and European passport holders could more easily smuggle explosives onto airplanes. Sources say the group includes technicians trained by al-Qaeda's master bomb builder Ibrahim al-Asiri. The Yemen-based Asiri built the underwear bombs and 2 cargo bombs concealed in printer cartridges.
Overnight, a new era in American warfare began, backed by a firm promise and a solid promise. There will be no American lives put at risk on the ground. Warships and warplanes took the fight to ISIS at their camps and in their caves. We must now look at what comes next, those who took part and why, and then bring it back home to the American homeland, where one group charged with protecting us here on our soil is at the same time going through some very interesting and telling changes. Welcome back to MidPoint. Former veteran member of the CIA clandestine service, CIA station chief, and someone who knows the Middle East players and the chessboard intimately, Gary Berntsen joins us. Gary, thanks so much for being with us again.
Pleasure to be with you today.
Gary, let's start right out at the top with a brand new name that I will wager 99.9% of Americans never heard before last night or early this morning. Khorasan, the new group. Who are they, and how well should we fear them?
Well, the Khorasan group are a group of former al-Qaeda members, core al-Qaeda members that fought in Afghanistan, that have moved and transplanted themselves over to the area inside of Syria where ISIS and the Nusra Front are operating. They're operating from the space where the Nusra Front operates, and they're planning attacks on the United States. Clear and simple.
How long have we, in your opinion, known about them?
Well, we've known about members in that group because some of them are actually sort of house guests of the Iranians for years, and then ultimately were released and then have been moving around. Others were in Afghanistan and escaped from us during the invasion back in 2001. So some of these guys have been around a while. Others are new members, but they've got experience. They've been in this business a while, and clearly, if they have the intention, the capability, and the access, they're going to be able to execute some attacks on us.
I can imagine what your answer will be on this one, but certainly here's from the American people's perspectives. We were told not too long ago, it seems, that Osama bin Laden was dead. Al-Qaeda was a defeated group. It was time to move on. Does this not indeed prove again just how foolish a statement like that was at its core, and also how foolish it is to think that these groups, like cockroaches, just don't continue to breed every single place they can get a foothold?
Clearly, that statement was inaccurate. Clearly, we are in a generational fight. These individuals, these Salafist terrorists, are committed to expelling the United States and its allies from the Middle East. They see us as neo-imperialists, new imperialists that have invaded their lands with culture, technology, film, all the trappings of Western ideas. And they see this as an affront to their religion and to their philosophy, and will fight us. And their ultimate aim is to establish a caliphate worldwide.
Is it not fair to say that whether they're this group, the second group, another, whatever group you want to point at right here, no matter who we deal with in the Middle East, there are those who will give them safe haven, even give them safe haven in many countries that we believe are our friends and are working with us, simply because of what is that generational belief here, and this has gone on now for thousands of years.
Well, clearly there is this clash of civilizations taking place. The book written by Samuel Huntington many years ago, that those in the Middle East, those of many in the Islamic faith, the more radical of those, the jihadists, want to wage war on us, and there are elements in their societies that are supporting them. A couple of governments have provided them direct support, but to win this fight, we're going to need the allies of Islamic governments. And that was the importance of bringing in countries like Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Bahrain, and getting the Qatar to sort of jump on board and assist as well in this opening salvo, because we need the Sunni governments with us so that Sunni clerics like Yusuf al-Qaradawi in the Middle East can't say that this is a war on Islam. It's not. We are teamed with Sunni Islamic states to destroy these heretics.
How impressive is it that we have Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, and Qatar all involved in this operation, and can we trust them? Well,
it's a good thing to have them involved, and the administration deserves kudos for for getting them together. A lot of people are criticizing the fact that, this isn't a 40-country, coalition, but the reality is it's the right group of countries. We need to bring the Turks in. We need to get the Kuwaitis in, too, to round this off, and the Egyptians. And that would show a very large swath of the Islamic world, the official Islamic world, against these terrorists. It's an important thing to do. Many of these governments, and they recognize, like the Saudis and Bahrain and the UAE, recognize that ISIS and these Salafists and Nusra Front as well represent more of a threat to them than they do to the Shia in Iran. They're not going to invade Iran. There's 80 million Shia there. What they're going to try to do is come in, infiltrate those Sunni societies in the Gulf states, flip them, and take control of the world's 50% of the world's oil. That's what this really is about, and we cannot allow them to do that.
Gary, are we looking at a historic moment here when you look at all of these organizations and all of these countries that seem to always have been reticent to attack fellow Muslims, fellow Islamists before, but now we have 5 nations and maybe more that are willing to strike against what technically, in many ways, are their own people, their own families, their own friends right now. We've never seen anything like this before.
They are attacking co-religionists, as you state. The key here is, can we keep them in the fight, and will they be willing to put ground forces in? What we're seeing right now is just the first phase of this conflict with ISIS. An air phase, an early air phase, where usually we come in and we'll bomb for a number of weeks or a month or so, and then unleash ground forces on them. I want to know where the ground forces are going to come from, and that's something that the administration, that's the second part of their plan, they're going to have to show us. And without a second part to this plan, this will not be successful.
All right, to your point, here is retired Marine General James Mathis. He served under President Obama until last year. He is the latest high-profile skeptic. He told the House Intelligence Committee that a blanket prohibition on ground combat was tying the military's hands, calling them half-hearted or tentative, or airstrikes alone can backfire on us. Taking that into account, what's your assessment then of what we saw last night in Night 1, what we need to say and see rather in nights 2 and 3 in order for it not to backfire at us?
We will need to ramp this up, but what General Mattis is referring to is a commitment to ground forces. And we're not seeing that right now. We're going to have to see that. Who are going to be the people that will go on the ground there? Does the administration, and they did surprise us a pleasant surprise to see the UAE putting combat aircraft up and in the fight, and to see that this group would come together. But okay, let's surprise us again. We got to see who these ground forces are going to be. And there are countries, large countries like Turkey and Egypt, that have got plenty of ground forces that could put them in. And they're Sunni ground forces. Let's see if these countries will step up with us. And we provided a lot of aid to these countries over the years. We have been a loyal ally to many of these countries and helped them in many ways. Let's see if they'll step up in our collective hour of need here.
Gary, about 2 minutes left. Let's spin to Homeland Security here. The Department of Homeland Security, according to the Washington Post, laden with so many internal issues, a void of leadership, stifling bureaucracy, dysfunctional work environment, that their mission is being compromised and people are leaving in droves. Of course, the DHS has said it's not true. It's completely a wrong story. But from what you understand and what you see, I would tend to believe that you'd sit on the side of those who would believe that, yes, there really is a malaise going on here right now at the DHS.
Well, there have been stories released that they have had multiple turnovers in the component that handles intelligence domestically in the United States. And it's said that they've had 3, sort of evolutions of changes in leadership, at least in the last couple of years. And this is a problem. You need continuity. You need expertise and continuity and strong leadership. I'm not in DHS, but, it's a very big mission. This was an organization that was put together after 9/11. Some say it's too big, and I tend to believe it's a little bit too big, hard for management. We're going to have to manage that portion of it. And DHS, more than any other thing, has got to ensure that that southern border is closed. We are in a time of war. We are seized with watching our airports and covering all of these legal points of entry. But what about that 1,000 miles of open land across the south of the United States? If we don't close that, we leave a gaping vulnerability, and the rest of the world knows about it, and the American people will ultimately suffer for it if DHS doesn't get its act together and get that covered. And that's a political issue, because there are those in this country that want to change this country changing the demographics of the country, allowing many, many more people to come in here that they believe will vote on the left.
Boy, it's a difficult time right now. It's so many different fronts. Gary Berntsen, always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Pleasure to be with you, Ed.
All right, pleasure again. By the way, 22 pre-existing agencies is what the Department of Homeland Security has to work through. Imagine what that mess has got to be. Later on this hour, waking up from surgery is a blessing. But what you may find later on your bill remains a true curse of the American medical system. And after the break, Republicans fed up with the charge of a war on women, they take the fight to the front lines.